Alright, she wasn't that different back then. So, let's be honest. The reason this video took so long to come out was factored by fear of messing up. I mean, this isn't one of my lesser popular characters. This is likely the #1 Siontix character. The legacy of Chiya Flower is so rich and powerful that even people who haven't seen F-Zero Seppuku are fans of her. This character is fascinating to many, and therefore it probably comes to you as no surprise when I say that her beginning as a character is just as fascinating. Now, being that this is Chiya Flower and not exactly a Saga Angel, to cover her in a short video is nearly impossible. I've thus decided to cut Chiya Flower Brief History of video into parts. This part will only be delving into the earliest parts of her history and not at all the final product character. I will not be creating a part 2 until I spin the wheel and land on her name again. So naturally, to understand the history of Chiya Flower, you need to understand a piece of history about F-Zero Seppuku. In the final product of F-Zero Seppuku, the saga takes place in Mute City, Japan, or Tokyo. But this was not always the case. In fact, it was not the case until a subtle change was made following Revival Day 2013. In the beginning, the implication was that Mute City was in England, being the successor city to London. In comes the then protagonist, going by the name Captain Seppuku. Captain Seppuku hails from Wales, a concept that remains true in canon F-Zero Seppuku. The story of Captain Seppuku, the Welshman, has to be that he travels to Mute City, England in a bid to win the Grand Prix and hunt criminals on the streets. Shortly into the creation of Captain Seppuku as a potential protagonist, there came the desire for a secondary character, a sidekick per se. In comes Chiya Flower. Chiya Flower, in the past, was designated the lesser role of an apprentice to Captain Seppuku. Perhaps the most significant difference of this version of Chiya is her appearance. Originally, Chiya took on a black beanie hat, a pink turtleneck, and emerald hair. The reason for this involves anime and their tendency to give female characters exotic colors. Though I have no evidence to prove this, I am under confidence that the color of Chiya's hair was inspired by Bulma of the Dragon Ball series. To clarify, I do not know if that is true. So anyways, in this early reality, Chiya Flower was a woman from Northern Ireland. This explains the true origins of Chiya's British tongue. The concept of her being Anglo-Mysterian would come at a drastically different date. Together with Captain Seppuku, Chiya would take on the English streets of Mute City as a simple F-Zero apprentice to Captain Seppuku, then still the protagonist. Oh, and Earl would find his way there from America. That's a story for another day. So let's go back to the whole apprentice thing. Today's plot of F-Zero Seppuku states that it's about a young woman of the streets aspiring to one day build an F-Zero machine and enter the Grand Prix. Well, in this reality, it's all about Seppuku. Oh, and he just gives her one. I don't know. I hear those things are always just laying around without owners. Now, Chiya's role was very minor in the beginning concept. She was, in a sense, supposed to play the role of an assistant vigilante while also serving Seppuku on the track. The reason Seppuku would want Chiya on the track with him would more than anything be so that she could assist him in taking down Black Shadow and Blood Falcon, who were to be the primary antagonists straight away in the original concept. The story of Chiya Flower as an F-Zero racer was actually supposed to be pretty insignificant, whereas Captain Seppuku was supposed to be the one to always root for. Think Batman and Robin in that sense. Outside of the F-Seppuku team, Chiya was supposed to know Earl Bendick as a newly established boyfriend, though she'd be struggling to keep her role as a vigilante member a secret from her boyfriend, who so badly would want to know more about his new lover. Aside from this, that's all Chiya and Earl were supposed to be, a couple, and nothing more. With all that said, we've reached the bottom of the barrel of Chiya's character. That's all there really is to say. So, how did Chiya end up changing into what she is today?
Yes, I am. Hello.
In comes Hellsing, or Ceres Victoria. While I was not yet a fan of Hellsing, it was under my radar at the time. One thing I greatly respected about Hellsing was its decision to make Ceres Victoria the arguable protagonist. Likewise, I liked the very realistic choice of colors they used for Ceres. These two things hit me hard and all at once, leaving me to consider something. What if it made Chiya Flower the protagonist, not Captain Seppuku? This would be the first time in many years of storytelling that I'd give the leading role to a female, a risky experiment considering I was fairly young at the time and with no prior experience with female protagonists. Nonetheless, taking inspiration from Ceres' role as a protagonist, I took the chance and gave Chiya the glistening promotion to protagonist. It would officially then see Captain Seppuku in the lesser role. The new plot of F-Zero Seppuku would instead revolve around Chiya Flower as she struggles to get by in the lower city and aspire to construct an F-Zero machine. So, you'd think it's over. Colors. Roll. Everything's synced up with the canon, Chiya, right? Well, you'd be wrong there, because even here there is still a ton to say. We haven't even touched on a time where Chiya was supposed to be an advocate for feminism, or Chiya was originally a more social being in the lower city. For the sake of keeping this episode at a consistent length, though, we will save that for another day. So, without further ado... And up next will be... a fairly new character, but one with a very fascinating history.